Hi, I'm Tom Kenny. I'd like to introduce the MUFIC Songwriter of the Month for July 2022, Mike Evanko.
Nice to meet you.
Mike, good to see you.
Thank you. Very excited.
I'm going to ask you a few questions here today. Do you come from a musical family, Mike?
I always say yes and no. My mom will openly admit that she has not provided any of the musical talent that my brother and I possess. I would say it's almost entirely due to my dad and him introducing music to both of us at a young age. We had Beatles Lullaby version CD playing, basically as soon as I was out of the hospital. He was a big Beatles fan. I think his first record he bought was CCR when he was in maybe middle school. And so, he was singing to us before bed. There's a lovely story about me always yelling for more cowboy songs before I went to bed because I wanted him to come sing me to sleep. So music was always a calming thing. It was just always around. My brother plays the saxophone and clarinet. And I always say that if I had his natural ability with my work ethic, I would be a much better musician because I've had to work a lot harder at it than he has because he's just talented naturally. But I would say for me, it's mostly just my dad because other than that, there's not really a whole lot of music in the extended family, really. So I'm very thankful because it's been such a joy for me that he gave that gift to me from the get-go.
Sure sounds like it. When did you start writing songs?
I'm sure I started trying to write songs, and however, you think about doing that. I think I can remember, I started playing guitar in 5th grade, took lessons for a while, and then stopped in 8th grade because my mom was not going to pay for it if I wasn't going to practice. I think you start off trying to, for me it was, I would try to take the chords of another song and write my own. Like I would just literally look up the chords and be like, all right, I'm going to write to the same thing. And then you kind of have that moment where you realize there are no rules. And then that was kind of a very eye-opening process where it was like, you can kind of do whatever you want. So,
did you have an influence?
Yeah, I'm a huge Oasis fan. I loved that Noel Gallagher brought the punk aspect of the Sex Pistols in these kind of more intensive bands from a sonic perspective, just being loud and in your face with the melody of the Beatles. And he was so keen on trying to emulate the Beatles. I was very inspired by that and the fact that he could do the melodic acoustic version just as well as he could do the kind of punk in your face, extremely loud version. So for me, it was, I remember trying to write the, typical kind of high school boy meets girl type of things. And listening back to some of it, I couldn't sing at all at the time. I would show a song to my mom and she would go, well, the guitar sounds nice, which was her way of saying, the singing is not so great. But, I think for me, it was just trying to encapsulate what I felt at any given time into a song, whether it was good or not, So.
I like that you said you realized at a point in time that there were no rules.
Yeah.
For guys our age, I'm talking about David and myself, that was Bob Dylan. Mm-hmm. Back in the 60s, that's when we discovered there were no rules. And I thought that was just
it's funny you say
great comment coming out of your generation.
Well, it's funny you say that because I'm sure I was the same person for me in a lot of ways. Like you see Bob Dylan and you hear about him for the first time. It's a bit of a bummer because there aren't modern people that are of the same, age and all of that. Like, Bob Dylan was kind of coming up at the same time that you were probably working on your own craft. So it's a bit frustrating nowadays that there aren't as many influences like that in popular music, but I look a lot to the local music scene for inspiration in that way as well.
One of the great things about Charleston, we have a really good local music scene. Mm-hmm. When you write a song, what comes first, the melody or the words?
Almost always the melody for me. I hear something in my head and I'll make up nonsensical words. And I always tell the story about Yesterday by the Beatles, that Paul McCartney wrote it in a dream or something, or he woke up and he had it from his dream. And he sat down at the piano and was singing scrambled eggs, just to get something out before the moment passes. And that's the way I look at it, is that a lot of the times a song will just appear in your brain. And if you don't reach out and grab it, it goes away. Maybe it'll come back again. So for me, it's just about getting the melody out, feeling whatever I'm feeling, and then I can always change the words later. So typically I'll just kind of sit there, do a little voice memo on my phone and just get it out and just repeatedly play whatever chord progression or melodies in my head and just say new words every time to try to find where those kind of words are and where the direction of the song wants to go. Because I find it hard to write a song about something. Like if someone came to me and said, write a song about, a man on a boat or something. It's just like whatever the subject is, it would be hard to write from that perspective because I feel like I would be struggling with the story before I even got the chance to make sure the song sounded good.
Are you motivated more by joy or pain when you write?
I would say pain because, pain makes you feel like you need to do something. I think happiness is a little bit more peaceful. And I think you can definitely write from happiness and think about, how happy you are and how much, you're thankful to be feeling that way. But I think the most, and this is, talking about influences from Noel Gallagher, is like he talks about how the first 2 records he wrote, he was poor and, living on the dole in England. And he was writing about wanting to escape all of this and, all these dreams he had. And then you become a rock star and you can't really write authentically from that point of view. So for me, it's more authentic to write from a point of pain because, you write about what you're experiencing. And, I'm 26 now, but I've been writing songs for a little while now. And it's, about growing up and about going through various things, whether that's just simple things like breakups or, in my case, sobriety and all these other things that I've gone through in my life. I think it's easier to just write authentically. So I try to access the painful moments and just turn that into beauty, and something like I mentioned the Smiths before we started. And I loved that musically it was beautiful. You have these very like melodic riffs that Johnny Marr is playing or these just interesting chord progressions, but the songs are like horribly depressing. Like there's the song Girlfriend in a Coma where he's basically just talking about how his girlfriend's dying in a coma, and it couldn't be a more beautiful song. You know what I mean? I like the juxtaposition of the two.
Wow. In your experience, your life experiences, school, jobs, maybe places you've been, have you drawn on that for your songwriting?
Probably mostly from places I've been. I don't get particularly inspired from school or work. Sorry to anyone from work that's watching this. I will say, my current job is great because I get to work with people and help them find new jobs. And that's very pleasing for me, getting to learn about other people. And I think that's why I like music so much, is it's a way to relate to others. Excuse me. School, as far as, inspiration is concerned, was never particularly, I enjoyed learning, but for me, it's just about meeting people and traveling and experiencing things. So I would definitely say, I think back to my times in France in college or, trips I've taken. And a lot of the songs I've written are about sort of the fallout of graduating college. Everyone goes their separate ways and you're sort of just left figuring yourself out. Especially in a world now that's very uncertain, very dynamic. We had the pandemic and all of that. So there's a lot of external stimuli. So I think there's a lot of things to draw on. And I think it's just about trying to kind of navigate through that and write about what's real, because I don't like when people try to avoid, what's going on and just kind of write about simplistic, superficial topics.
You like to address things. In your songwriting, well, as a songwriter, do you go through droughts, periods of time where nothing is coming? Yeah,
I'm kind of coming out of one right now. So knock on wood, hopefully I can keep that going. But yeah, definitely. I think a lot of it, a drought in a lot of ways it's sort of like burnout from any typical job that you have, where you're just like kind of frustrated with the process, And I think especially if you've been spending more time trying to just work or get through the day or kind of fulfill obligations, you're not going to be in a great headspace to write music. So whenever I get into that kind of mindset of like not feeling inspired, not wanting to really try to be creative, I try to do whatever I can to put myself in a new situation, even if it's just going to somewhere new in town, trying to get to a place where it's more reflective and it can give you new experiences to draw from. But I do think traveling is the best. Before I started my new job, I went out west to all these different cities I hadn't been to, and it was all these rush of new experiences that can kind of just fill you with the new perspective to write about things. And I think, I envy musicians that are successful, that are like Paul Simon when he went to go write, I guess it was Graceland after experiencing everything that he had heard in Africa, all the different African beats and stuff. I think it was Graceland.
Yes, wonderful album.
Yeah, and it just was. I liked that he was able to put himself in a new situation, then come back and make it his own. And not to say that I'm on that level at all, but I think it's just about giving yourself a taste of something new and then bringing it back into what you already know and understand, and then putting that into music.
Have you written a song, speaking of that, have you written a song that you feel might have changed your destiny or maybe even have a great influence on the world? Should you be able to have everyone hear it?
As much as I'd want to say I've already written that song, I don't know if I have, but who's to say, really? I think it's, for me, yes, I've written songs that I am pleased enough with that kind of shift my viewpoint into saying, okay, this is actually good, people like this, And then it's about trying to just continually do better, I think, never being really satisfied with what you've done already. I think the goal for any musician is to write something that resonates with a large group of people. But I don't think that you should be going into it with the intention of making it as easily accessible as possible, if that makes sense. It very much bothers me when I see music that is so devoid of emotion or complexity that it's sort of like the most, it's like the chicken tenders of music, where it's like, it's just kind of basic and boring and it's appealing to everyone. I'd rather write something that's very unique and tries to be new in the intention that it brings different people together. I think that's the goal for any musician. I don't like when music is so devoid of complexity, or it's just very bland or superficial. Typically a lot of pop music these days. It bums me out to see that that's what excites people, because to me music is about experiencing new sounds or being creative, but I've tried to be a little more open-minded. But yeah, for me, the goal, I guess, would be to keep writing songs in the hope that, I get better at my craft, and that can allow me to, potentially maybe reach a greater audience one day.
Well, tell us about the song you're going to do today.
It's called Up All Night. I wrote it right before I was actually going to a wedding, and I had watched this video. I believe they're called Tram Sessions, and they're these Australian videos they make where they take a songwriter and they put him on the tram and they have them perform a song as the train's going around. It's very cool. And so just people are listening, and it was sort of, I liked the simplicity of the song he had written, so I tried to write a sort of simple song about the emotions that I was feeling, about kind of being very jealous of everyone else seemingly having their lives figured out through the lens of social media and whatnot, but also just me being in a place where I was very depressed, and basically just couldn't like be a normal human. I was struggling to get to sleep at night because mind was racing and I wouldn't fall asleep until I was basically so exhausted I would shut down. So I like to turn kind of things on their head. So I was talking about dreaming about falling asleep and just feeling like I was wasting all my time, but kind of thinking about, I could kind of change all of this by just getting up and moving somewhere else and trying to start over. So it was sort of trying to achieve that melancholy beauty that I have seen in other songs, about just being, sort of looking at things from a sort of detached view. I'm just kind of trying to appreciate the range of emotions that I was experiencing at the time, especially as I was working to get sober and move on from that.
Mike Evanko, our Songwriter of the Month for July 2022.
Sounds like a train bell ringing through the station of your head. It's ringing out of time. We could leave here, be different. Cities surrounding you instead. Silhouettes and cigarettes, lampshade nightmares up all night, I'm dreaming. I could fall asleep, I don't. I'm wasting all my precious time. Trade this solitude for city life, neon lights. See how they shine. Well, it sounds like a train bell ringing through the station of your head. It's ringing out of town. We could leave here, be different. City surrounding you instead. I'm up all night, I'm dreaming. I could fall asleep, I don't. I'm wasting all my precious time. Trade this solitude for city life and neon lights. See how they shine. And I don't think I know you like I used to. Oh, and I don't see the front of me. Up all night, I'm dreaming. I could fall asleep, I don't. I'm wasting all my precious time. Trade this solitude for city life, neon lights. See how they shine.
I think you
Excellent
made a
job.
record.
Thank you.
MUFIC sets you free.